thinking about that and thinking about your automation and translating studies that will move and change practice, do you have any like maybe current projects or recently any projects when people think of the image biopsy lab, you want people to kind of be like, hey, this is something we're really proud of and that we're moving forward with? Do you have any kind of comments or thoughts you'd like to share about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's two big things. One is our knee osteoarthritis detection software, Koala. It's an FDA-cleared product for automated assessment of knee x-rays for OA. And so we are very much working on, we're working a lot on studies to use those data points to try and do things for the diagnostic or the progression assessment. So longitudinal assessment of OA progression in the knee, and coming up with ways to model rapid progression, for instance. So having AI and being able to do standardized readings over time on x-rays, is, I think, a technology which enables the type of progression modeling or advanced disease modeling which wouldn't be possible if you just do radiological reads, because radiologists are limited in their time and resources. So that, and also we have a hand bone age assessment tool. It's not necessarily linked with OA, but I think it's very important for general, skeletal development and also orthopedics for pediatrics. And that's something that is available, that we have for the US, not the US market, for the European market. And we presented results at the ECR, the European Congress of Radiology, in March for a German population, and we're hoping to get that published in the next few months. And I think it's a good example of working with clinicians to validate models and software that we build, and to generate the type of evidence which is essential for making sure your products are safe and effective and can be used by clinicians.
Yeah, I think I saw that. Is that the IB Lab Panda?
Yes. Yes, exactly. Panda, yeah.
The names, how do you come up with the names like Koala and Panda? I'm curious, that's all.
So when the company started, the original office was very close to the zoo in Vienna, the Schönbrunn. If you've ever heard of the Palace Schönbrunn, there's a zoo there. I think it's the oldest zoo in Europe. And I think it was kind of like, well, why don't we name our products after animals? So they started coming up with acronyms like Koala, Panda. It gets harder as you get more products.
Yeah.
We have, just to go through the list, we have Llama for long leg angle measurements, for long leg x-rays for the knee, and we have Hippo for hips and pelvis imaging. So
that's awesome.
It's and I have to say the best part is our software is part of a platform, and it's called the Zoo. So
it's great.
It's actually it's easy to communicate. Actually, So
that's pretty awesome. So the Panda specific software, it's for you. I think you mentioned pediatrics. Is that right?
It's pediatric bone age assessment. So it's to do hand bone age, which is important for assessing if a child's skeletal development is normal or if they have advanced or delayed growth. And that can be linked with hormonal problems. It could just be linked with the growth patterns of that family. It could be genetic, or it could be linked with specific diseases. So in the pediatric setting, for orthopedics or other growth disorders, bone age is extremely important to assess where this child is in the skeletal development spectrum, because children should have their hand, at least the skeletal development of the hand, should be completed in the later teenage years in a normal population. So
okay, the Zoo, that's great. So with that being said, something like Panda, it seems like you guys develop these kinds of sections that are specific to certain conditions that are able to have good predictability, reliability, and translatability. I was like kind of thinking about this Panda. Do you have stuff where it can be expanded, or do you create something separate, maybe to like a population where there's like frailty and things like that, like an older population, things like that? What are your thoughts on that, or is that kind of something separate? Or
no, I think our Koala product is definitely geared to an older population, because it's specifically for knee osteoarthritis assessment, and that's generally in an aging population. Same thing with the hip tool, Hippo, because Hippo is focused on hip dysplasia and femoral acetabular impingement, or FAI. And again, these are things that actually FAI can have an onset earlier in life, depending on your injury or trauma. But oftentimes hip dysplasia is something that happens over time. So certainly, because we have tools to assess X-rays that are in the orthopedic space, so knee and hip, then these tools are used quite often in an aging population to assess, knee alignment, knee deformities, hip deformities, and all of these things, I guess, are the products or the results of osteoarthritis of the hip and knee. So,
sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, given everything you've shared about what you've been involved with the image biopsy lab,
mm-hmm.
what's the next big thing that you're hoping to shoot for in the next couple of years? Maybe five-year plan, and then maybe a bigger long-term plan. Can you talk about that?
I mean, I can say certainly the things I talked about as well: hip, hip OA, hip dysplasia, knee OA, bone age. I think we are interested in maybe developing more for the spine as well. So spinal fracture, scoliosis. These are on the radar. And up until now, we've been working exclusively on X-rays. Also, a little bit with DEXA. We're working on developing a tool to do DEXA assessment of a spinal fracture. So I'd say in the next few years, we will explore 3D imaging modalities, because our focus is on specific diseases. So osteoarthritis and other bone-related, MSK diseases. And MSK imaging naturally brings you to CT and MRI and DEXA as well. So I think these are things. And as an AI company, we're trying to quantify medical imaging outputs, and I think the other big thing is to kind of build this into a platform where you can do research and maybe discover patterns or discover new phenotypes. So being able to do like large scale analytics on medical imaging data, taking patient populations that have OA or hip dysplasia, it might be possible for us to build on that with research collaborators. And, the goal would be to be able to change the standard of care, help doctors make different decisions or the best decisions about diagnosis and treatment. So
it's pretty awesome. It's great stuff. It's exciting news.
Thank you.
Excited to see how it evolves into 3D imaging.